I guess the hardest lesson to learn is that, well, walk me through the steps of what you're doing there. And oh wait, I'm gonna give you a cherry on top of this story. Yeah. It's great, and you're working with the right people. And I think grit is the success factor. She wasn't a mentor for real estate, she was a mentor for my life. Well, I don't think cold calling is the right step. What's the reason people are not holding on to this property for a long time? I have to adapt to what's going on. Well, I'm just getting started.
All right, here we go. All right, cool. All right. Hello, Mor.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on the Signet Podcast. That means I can't change the name now. I'm really happy to have you on. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and you're one of the leading brokers in Denver, and I love everything that you do to market yourself. Do you want to introduce yourself, maybe talk a little bit about what your business is? And
of course. So I'm Mor Zucker, and I'm the team lead of Team Denver Homes, and we're a team with Sotheby's International Realty. And I have 4 agents on the team, and a TC, and an assistant. And when I sell real estate, I focus on luxury properties and investment properties. And we sell in all price points, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of your other podcasts, and I love how you see your clients. You really, you talk about remembering their kids' names, even their dogs' names.
That's right.
Just so much about that, building the personal connection. One thing that I really admire about you is how you relate to people. Everybody loves you. Like, I know a lot of people.
Well, you're gonna make me blush.
Mor is like, just so the audience knows, she's very well known in Denver, and everybody has just good vibes, and you're always welcome everywhere. So I've been, in LA, I think you met a bunch of people there, and they still talk about you. So I think it's great. So how did you get started in brokerage, and how did you see yourself starting?
So my ex-husband built software for real estate, and I wanted to help the family business and test the software tools on the field as being a realtor. Before I was a realtor, I was a professional poker player, and I did that for about a decade. And I thought I was just going to venture into real estate, just test the tools on the market, maybe do a deal or two, nothing serious, just for fun. And then I just fell in love with the industry, and I fell in love with the job, and from there I just went real estate full swing.
So one thing that I believe you started at Kentwood.
I did start at Kentwood. Yeah.
And one of their requirements is $5 million the first year.
The first year.
How in the world? I mean, just getting to 1 million is a challenge. How did you get to 5 million?
So I leaned heavily into my community. So I'm Israeli and I'm Jewish, and I'm already very heavily connected in my circles. And I just let everyone know that I'm a realtor, and asked if they could send me business. And I formed such great relationships in the community that community held me up for sure. The first, I would say, 10 transactions were within the Jewish community.
Okay. What would you say to someone starting out? Does that formula work for everybody? You rely on your network, and
it's relying on a niche network. It doesn't have to be a religious network. It can be a shared hobby network. It can be a group of people that play cards together, ski together, a group of people that have shared values and interests, political views, anything that brings people together with a common denominator, where you and I already feel like we have a lot in common, therefore we're friends. You're more likely to refer me business if, 1, we see each other often, and 2, we have a shared similarities.
Just curious, because I looked at some average statistics, how long have you been an agent?
This is my 12th year.
12th year, okay.
Yeah.
So that I read that was the average broker length in Denver.
Well, I'm just getting started.
For you, yeah. I mean, I love seeing your team. How do you pick people for your team?
So I do have a lot of people that apply to be part of the team, but really it's more of the relationships that I build with the people. The agents that have joined my team, I've known them for many years through other circles, and also I want brokers that are good in real estate, that care about their clients, that care about how they're perceived by other brokers. So this is a small industry in Denver. You get to hear about brokers really quickly, especially if they're not doing a good job, which is why, my biggest advice for anyone is to keep, your cool, be classy. Even if you're mad in transactions, don't behave poorly, because people talk. So having, I guess, an outstanding personality and being a good person is important for me, as having someone on my team too.
Okay. What's your longest client relationship, and how does that? I think a lot of people who are getting into real estate don't realize that, like, they see the money, they hear the stories. Of course, one of my good friends said that in Vegas, well, it's funny because you mentioned poker, but in Vegas you have the losers and the liars, not a lot of winners, maybe 1%. But in real estate you hear about the commissions and all that, but when you're starting, it really is about building those long-term relationships. Do you have like a special client that has been alongside with you from the beginning?
So I'm very fortunate. Almost all my clients have been with me from the very beginning. And that's because I nurture my relationships. A lot of agents do a deal, a transaction, they sell the house, and that's it. They don't communicate with their clients anymore, as if it's a service, not a relationship. Whereas every time I have a client, I add them to my friend bank. I closed with a client about a month ago, and she moved here from Alabama, and we're going to dinner now a month later, and we're friends now. So I'm going to continue maintaining that relationship, and I continue maintaining relationship with all my clients like that, because consider your relationship with your doctor. It's a similar situation where especially if it's a private practice, those are doctors that know your entire family. They know the kids. They probably know the grandkids that come around. That's the type of relationship I want to have with my clients, and not a service where they just hire me and then the deal is over.
Right. No, I love that. One of my friends is an agent. I remember when I was working with him, it was so dynamic. We'd be driving to a property, and it was a lot of personal. It takes a skill set to be a good broker. I think you have to make people feel comfortable. You have to take them through the transaction. So, going back a little bit to you being a poker player, how has being a poker player in terms of the bluffs and the calls affected you in negotiations? And what skills did you bring over from that?
Well, I think the biggest one for me was the money, right? Because I've been handling large sums of money with poker before the real estate. And a lot of times brokers get large sums of money, first of all, and then they start just spending it all, especially if they get their first paycheck. Right. So the first thing poker taught me is money management. And I think that translates to any business, not just real estate. If you have a set amount of money, you have to know how much you have to spend it. That's a big skill. The other big skill is people reading. Many brokers don't know, as well as clients don't know, that you show a lot of tells on how you feel with your body. And oftentimes it's not what you say, it's how you behave that tells me how you feel.
Right.
So I have cues from my clients, from the other party, from whoever I'm working with, on how they feel, and I can read the situation better, and it's mostly servicing them what they're looking for by seeing what they're not happy with.
So, question about just a technical question, because I haven't interviewed people that are in the brokerage world in residential. What red flags should a client that's buying a property look for in a transaction or in a deal?
The first red flag to look for is how often the property switched hands. Sometimes it could be very innocent, where somebody bought a house, then they got a job offer, they had to move, they sold it really quickly. However, if you see a property history that's moved hands several times, where somebody purchases the property, sells it after a year, another person purchased the property, and then sells it after a couple of years, and that's a trend, it's something to ask yourself, what's the reason people are not holding on to this property for a long time? So that'd be the first thing to look into. The second thing to look into is the three big items that, in my opinion, would be important for having a good sale.
Right.
It's the roof, the structure, and the sewer. If those three items are good, I think everything else is negotiable.
Okay. Do you think there's any underserved or sort of undervalued markets in the Denver area? Like, where would you point an investor to invest around Colorado?
I always point into areas that have not that have a permit for some sort of new shopping area, new entertainment area, things that have not opened yet, but are about to. And the way developers and investors can look into that is looking into the city website and county website and seeing what permits have been approved for areas around them. And if they see a hub that's going to have something new constructed there in the next 18 months to 2 years, that's probably a good area to invest in an underserved community, because it's now being developed even further. And that's how you're going to get the most money out of your investment, because it's going to grow exponentially with the new development that's coming into the area.
I mean, that's great. I think that's so true. And I think that in a way, that's what I kind of look for. When you know that there's a lot of investment going up, it's sort of like people aren't sure what's happening, but somebody's already committed $1 billion or a few $100 million into an area. I think that it says a lot about the future of the area.
And the infrastructure of the area. That means that the whole lifestyle of that area is going to be elevated, which will in turn affect your real estate.
So one thing I love about you is that you're very practical. And I think that that's something that everybody can take away. People go get their MBA, they go to college, they learn whatever they learn in school. It's a very structured thinker. Being an Israeli, and many immigrants I've seen, they come from Mexico or wherever, I've seen that people have street smarts. And that street smart is a rationalization of just being open-minded to creating business. How creatively can people get into real estate if they don't qualify for the traditional like FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac kind of loan? Is there creative alternatives?
So many creatives. The biggest creative right now is house hacking, where a first-time home buyer can qualify for a loan for up to 4 units as a residential loan, and he can live, or she can live, in one of the units and rent out the rest. That offsets their mortgage, and it allows them basically to live mortgage free, and all they would require is having good credit and the down payment for the property.
Okay, one thing I love about you is I feel that no matter where you go, you're going to succeed. I mean, it's just your personality. It's not just the win mentality that you have. I think it's other values that you have. What values are those values that you would bring wherever you go? And not just business values, probably in raising kids and just your friendship group, everything.
I think it's grit. It's not giving up. It's putting the extra mile. When everyone's given up, I put another mile. When everyone says the deal's over and it's going to be dead, I say I don't think it's dead yet. Let's push another time. When the buyer submits an offer and the seller didn't get his offer and it's countered and doesn't get accepted, I reach out to the buyer and see if he wants to resubmit it once more. It's pushing and pushing until you get what you want, but with benefiting the people around you.
Okay. When it comes to investments, are you interested in, how do you see that? I know you have, some investments yourself. Do you want to do more of that? And why do you do that?
Yes, of course.
What do you look for?
Yes, I'm always looking for, I like to diversify my portfolio. So I currently own 5 properties, and each one of them is a different type of property. And some are residential, some are commercial, some are a mixed use, different types. So I think what I try to do is I try to buy one new real estate investment a year. In the last couple of years, the real estate market hasn't been very great, and it hasn't been as easy to save up money for another investment property. So, sometimes those timelines don't work exactly like you planned them.
Yeah.
So I'll buy another investment property next year. I haven't bought an investment property for the last couple of years. But it's also the market. I have to adapt to what's going on around me. With that being said, there are a lot of great investment opportunities at any time.
So would you say it's better to buy one good deal or a bunch of smaller good deals?
I think they're both great strategies. I have clients that do both, and I respect all of their businesses and what they do with their investments. Personally, for me, I like to diversify it because I like to have eggs in different baskets. However, when you do focus on one investment and you pour all your investment in there, if it does really well, you are going to probably make a lot more than you would if you spread out too thin.
Yeah.
But it also works the other way. If the investment doesn't go well, you pretty much don't have anything else to fall back on. Versus in my case, if one investment doesn't do well this year, another one will, to kind of offset the loss.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about diversification. some people also don't realize that commercial, the values are so much higher. So let's say you have $20 million in assets. If it's only in 3 assets and one of them is empty, that's 1/3 of the potential cash flow. But if you have like 20 properties and there's a few that are vacant, it really doesn't affect your bottom line that much.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's just a personal thing. You know, I always think of it from like a client point of view. What are their needs? Can they deal with the instability or stability of different cash flows? So I sort of asked you this before because it's a personal question. Brokers, you know, there's so many brokers and there's very few that are the top earners, and there's a huge distribution towards like the successful brokers. What would you tell the ones that want to continue fighting the battle or selling homes and building their client list, but that just aren't doing well, even though they're following all the right steps? They're cold calling, they're networking, but there's just something missing.
Well, I don't think cold calling is the right step anymore, not in 2025. Think about all the phone calls that you get. Are you gonna sell your property with a broker that cold calls you and asks you to sell your home? He's probably gonna treat it like a spam call, and you're probably not even going to answer the phone number that you don't recognize. I think in today's market, cold calling doesn't work anymore. And if it does, it's for a very small percentage. I think it's networking is number one. It's networking, it's being wherever you can be. It's registering to every event that you can imagine that you will enjoy too. And it's not just arriving at the event, because I have brokers that tell me, Mor, I go to all these events and I do everything you're saying, but I don't form relationships. Well, I ask them, what are you doing at this event? Well, walk me through the steps of what you're doing there. They come in, they say hi, they get a drink, they stand, they listen to the event, maybe chit chat with 1 or 2 people, and then they go home. Well, when I go to an event, I make an effort to talk to as many people as I can. And I don't want to come in and say, everyone, I'm a realtor, because who wants to hear that? But I make sure I always implement conversations about the real estate market, you know, so that everyone that talks to me at this point already knows if they're going to see me, they're going to want to ask me some real estate question. And if they don't, I'm going to interject some real estate information in there so that real estate is part of the conversations of where I'm going for these events, and everyone knows that I'm a realtor. So going to networking, also if everyone knows that you're a realtor and you make sure of it, and also if you form relationships, handing people your business card, swapping business cards doesn't work anymore. You want people on your phone. I don't even give people my business card anymore unless I go to a showing and leave it at the property. I'll take my phone and I'll have the phones connect and I'll swap the contact card, because if you're on my phone, then I can text you, oh, hey, Eduardo, it's Mor. It was great meeting you at the event. If there's anything you need for real estate, here's my number. I'd love to chat. And now I'm in your phone, and the likelihood of you remembering me through that interaction is much greater than if I just gave you a card and you stuck it in your pocket.
One thing that I love that you do, I was watching the Denver Ear and some videos that you did on YouTube. I think it's such a great way to showcase like a city's, I don't know, just a fun things to do in a city, the lifestyle, things like that. How has that helped your business, and do you still do that?
I do still do that. I now also hire some content writers to help me. I used to bootstrap the whole thing myself. I used to work all day in real estate, and at night I'd write blog posts, but that burnt me out a little. And I'm also a mother of 3 children, so that didn't leave me much time at all. But I still write every once in a while because I want to keep my content in there, and it does help my business. The first way it helps my business is that it keeps me top of mind. So now people read my content not just when they're looking to buy a house, or after, you know, they just closed on one, just to learn some real estate market news. They also want to know what's going around in their communities, because when you buy a property, you buy a community with the property. So you're going to continue coming back to my content if you know what's going on in the areas that you bought the real estate. Now it's about what's happening this weekend in your neighborhood, what's happening in the museums in your area, and it keeps me top of mind. And the second way it's helped me is that it brings a lot of first-time home buyers that are unsure who to use as their realtor. I only advertise myself and my team on my blog. I have rejected every request to monetize my website because I want people to associate me eventually with real estate, not with whatever ad someone's going to pay me to put on the site. So people that are not sure about who to hire as a realtor, maybe they're transplants, or maybe they just got started, some of their friends are not realtors yet. I can have a big group of people funnel through that way and also provide leads to my agents.
Yeah. So speaking of your agents, one question that I have, and I feel like it's a very undervalued question, is you got to have the right people around you. You say you hire assistants and everything. I find sometimes when you hire the wrong people, even though their intention is good, maybe they're a beginner and you want to believe that they have potential, or they cost, the right amount, or maybe they cost a lot, so you expect a lot. But managing people, hiring the right people, what's the secret? Because you got to have, a lot of people I've interviewed and talked to, they blame their success on their team. And it's like, it's all about the people. That's the quote. And it's, how do you get the right people? Like Adam, I love having him. We're going to do every podcast I have, I'm going to bring him on the...
That's great. Then you're working with the right people. I really care about who they are as people. So it's not just about making money. So having the right people is important. It's the culture. Eventually you're going to hang out with the people in your business more than you're going to hang out with most people in your life. So having the right people also means, how do they treat other people? Do they talk down to people? Do they make people feel comfortable and welcome around them? Are they just caring about the money and the business? Are they condescending? So what type of person are you, first of all? And having people that you enjoy going to work with is what makes the business fun and what allows you to make more money. I mean, I just took my team to Vegas as a team building trip because they hit a financial goal. And I didn't feel like I was on a business trip at all. In fact, most of the time we forgot we were on a business trip. We're like, wait a minute, should we talk about real estate for a little bit? Because we were having such a blast as friends in Vegas together. Maybe we should just talk real estate to just feel like this trip was worth the money. But really it was worth the money in gold, because we came back even more united on a personal level. And that's what elevates the team from being just a transactional business to a successful team.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. I mean, sometimes you want to hire your friends, or you see your friends and you're like, what can we do together? And sometimes that works, but I find that being assertive and remembering that you're the boss, or that you're the one that sort of has to control, I think that that's part of it. Also understanding, not that, I'm preaching, but understanding that you have to listen to everybody. Other people, you hire people for their expertise, and you want people to tell you when, I want people to tell me when I'm screwing up, or when I'm not doing things properly, or anything like that. Brokerage, I don't know how it is, with you and your experience of the 12 years you've had, but there's a lots of ups and downs in brokerage, and sales and things like that. You have cycles. What do you do to mitigate the down cycles? Do you change your personal financial, spending? Do you just drum up more marketing? You
need to invest more money in a down market.
Okay.
You have to spend more money. And if you don't have it, you take a loan. And if you don't have a loan, you call your dad or mom. If you don't have your dad or mom, you call your friend. You're going to invest more money in your real estate business than you ever have invested before. Because in down markets, agents that don't spend the money are retracting their business because they're saving, because they don't have it. They take jobs, they get lost. And versus the agents that reinvest in their business, at that point they're buying market share. So when the market goes back up, the agent that reinvested during the down market is going to be on top.
Right. Yeah.
So it's about pushing even further on a down market. And again, it's that grit piece. There's so many times when you can give up and say, man, this transaction that I've relied on has been being extended for who knows how long already, and I can't do this anymore, right? But no, you have to say, this is part of my job, so I need to get more transactions to continue feeding the business as much as I can. And if that's hard, you're going to find a way to do it. And if that's hard, you're going to find another way to do it. And I think grit is the success factor in real estate. Whoever sticks with it makes it.
Do you think that being a woman in real estate is maybe not a challenge, but how's it different? Does it affect you? Do you think that it matters?
I don't feel as being a female is different, and it affects me personally. I don't feel like anyone didn't hire me because I was a woman.
Right.
But what it does bring that's different for the hiring process is that I'm very authentic. Meaning I will come to a seller and I'll tell them what I think about the price of their home. I'll tell them what I think they need to do in order to sell their home. I'll tell them what they probably have not done well enough in the past. And I'm not scared to hurt their feelings. So I guess that kind of authenticity potentially could have cost me some clients and people that are used to having a lot of small talk and this niceties and not really liking to hear the truth, even when it hurts.
Right.
But I think it gained me more, I guess, believers and people that want to work with me because they know that when you're working with me, I'm going to tell you like it is.
Yeah, trust.
Trust.
You're assertive, I think.
I'm assertive, and
it's a good quality, I think, when you want to be. You have to build trust as a broker. You know, that people are trusting you on sort of defending them behind the scenes. If there's the other agent from, you know, another transaction, not another transaction, but on the other side of a transaction calls you, you have to represent properly. And sometimes, like you were saying, body language says a lot, or at least even on the phone, the way
That's
they breathe,
right.
the way they ask a
their
question.
voice, their tone, everything. Yeah, absolutely.
So when somebody's looking for a house and you meet a new client, what kind of questions do you want to know about what their needs are, what their wants are? How do you address them as a client?
Well, first I want to know who they are. Before we start with their criteria for their home, I want to know about them as people. And the reason is because your choice of your home is very much reflected in the dynamics of your family. So do they have children? Is it a couple? Is it a single? Do they want to be near a school? Do they want to be near a place of work? Do they have any pets? Do they need a yard? What has caused them to not like their home in the past? What has been a sticky factor for them that it made them want to move? And then I just start gathering information about who they are, and then I ask them to give me their criteria. But sometimes their lifestyle situation and what they think their criteria is doesn't align. So by me knowing who they are, and then they give me their criteria, let's say, for example, I'll throw out an example. Let's say they have a couple of dogs and they want a big backyard, right? And but there's this house, and the house is great. It doesn't have a big backyard, but it's it's right across the street from a park, right? So oftentimes just knowing what the need was, that the need was the backyard for the dog, I could then say something like, well, this house is exactly what you're looking for. You don't have that big backyard, but it's right across from the park. Do you want to take a look at it? And the reason I know that's because I figured out what the reason they needed the changes for. So it's more than just asking, what are you looking for? And like, why do you need it is the real question. Why do you need that third bedroom in the basement? If I get you something else, will that fit your need? But it's mostly finding out about how they live too.
I mean, I love that because it's going the extra yard. It's trying to dig underneath. And that was actually going to be my next question. You know, do you ever find that your clients will say they want something and they don't? You know, like there's a lot of, and not just they want something and it may be not in their best interest because it changes their price to something that, you know, there's a negative there. It might increase the price.
Yeah, and sometimes they also have some notions about something to do with real estate that might not be reflective to the situation that they're in. For example, some people come and say to me, I don't want to have an HOA. I hate HOAs. I don't want HOAs no matter what. And don't send me anything with an HOA. But here, there's a property I found that's exactly what they're looking for, and it has a small HOA fee. You know, so being able to say, hey, Eduardo, you told me you don't want an HOA, to never offer you an HOA, but here's a property with an HOA. So it's finding those things and figuring out how you can give them some extra help rather than just dictating whatever they're telling you to do.
Yeah, no, I think that the HOA is a huge one. I mean, for example, I'm looking for a piece of land, but I want to do some developments on it. If you're in an HOA area, like there's some beautiful properties in Carbondale. If it's in an HOA area, then you kind of lose control of what you're allowed to do because now a lot of investors or people that are looking to buy, they don't know what limitations are. That's kind of what this podcast I originally started doing. It's exposing things that new investors might not know. You know, with crowdfunding, you had dentists, you had all sorts of new people investing in crowdfunded real estate deals. And they were very smart in their business, but they didn't have some basic things that you might not think of. You know, they might see a 5-year deal with a certain return, but then they lose control of their money. Maybe that 5-year deal turns into a 15-year deal because the developer wants to, instead of selling as condos, they want to rent it out until the market turns back around. So that was kind of the thing. But
that happens a lot.
Yeah, and that's kind of you lose control, and if that's your retirement plan, that at the end of 5 years you're going to collect the money, then you're kind of, you're in trouble. And it's just, something people need to be aware of, I think. And there's so many things people need to be aware of. Where if somebody wanted to start looking at investing, what do they need to, do they need to talk to their loan broker first? Do they need to talk to you first? Do they need to, what would you suggest?
Well, I like talking to them first before they talk. Well, I guess I want them to know how much they can afford, right? But I want to understand what they're looking for first, because there's different types of investment properties. You can want an investment where you park your money somewhere for a long period of time, where you get returns, and that's a safe bet, and you don't get a lot of returns or high returns, but you get consistent ones. Or you can choose a property where you're like, more, I don't really care about the cash on cash, but the appreciation. I want this property that I can give it to my children one day. I want it to appreciate really well. And there I'm just looking to kind of put the money there just for it to be long term. And there's some that want to do a short term, where they're looking for something that's going to give them just cash. They don't care about the equity. So as soon as we figure out, or I figure out, what exactly do you want your money to do for you, then I'm able to direct them to the type of investment that would probably work well for what they're looking for their money to do.
Right.
And a lender would be good to find out, and it depends what type of investment they're looking for. Some lenders will do some unique creative financing, like DSCR loan. Some do different financing where you put specific money down, and when you put over a certain amount, you don't pay the mortgage insurance. There's lots of ways that you can be creative with the lender too. I'm not going to go through all of them because I'm not a lender. I'm a realtor, and I guess I'm not really supposed to talk about financing as much. But I can tell you that I can connect any investor with a plethora of very good lenders that will give you creative financing. And you don't need a lot of money. That's the biggest thing that people don't realize. They hear I work with investors and they think, oh, investors, like that's a big word, and but really, I would say about 75% of my investors are mom and pop shops where they own residential real estate, and now they're looking to put some of their money and own an investment property or two or three. And that is basically almost anyone that that can save up about $100,000.
Right.
So any person that has about $100,000 in their bank, or can save about $100,000, and it could, in other markets it's less. I'm saying 100 in Denver because I don't want investors to call me and say, I saved up $30K, what can I buy? And it would be very little. But if you have about 100, you can buy any investment property almost that can give you a good leg up to start your business. Obviously not ones that would be jumping into too high, but you have a good start. And that can be anything from a condo to a duplex to a single family home. And once you start with one, it's much easier to build. Like they say, money makes money, because what you can do is you can also convert your primary residence to an investment property and buy a new primary residence too. And I have investors that do that as well, that instead of buying their first investment property as a pure investment, they just convert their primary residence and they just search for a better home for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought of, one of my dreams is having a lot of houses and building an ADU and making the primary residence the Airbnb. But that's sort of one of the threats to that. And I don't know if it's something you consider, is Airbnb laws are changing. City like in Denver, I think you're only allowed to have one Airbnb and it has to be your personal residence.
That's right.
Could be wrong. But
no, you're right.
How do you feel like that is the trend of that? It would affect, some people that are looking to do something called the Burr method. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, what is that?
But it's the buy, repair, rent, refinance. And that's kind of gotten in a little bit of trouble because the refinancing interest rates went up and they wouldn't be able to qualify with the income to be able to buy something else. That was the last R. I don't know how there's an
So
R
buy
there.
and hold basically, but with refi at the end.
Right. How do you think that would work? Do you think that's a good plan, or do you...
Yeah, so first of all, there are some areas that you can short-term rent. It has to be an unincorporated county. So you can look on the county website if the property they're interested in is sitting in an unincorporated zone. And also some properties, I own a couple of those, have a hospitality license on the building.
Oh, wow.
And it's a mixed use building, so commercial is allowed as well as short-term rentals. because it already has the hospitality license connected with the licensing of the building itself. Those are unique examples, but they were there. And there are, in Denver, it's very difficult, but in the outskirts, city outskirts, I think short-term renting is, I guess there are pockets that make it more achievable. Again, make sure that if you're interested in short-term rentals, that whoever's interested in listening to this podcast checks the rules and the laws. And I'm going to put the whole disclaimer here, because you can get hit with multiple fines if you do short-term rental illegally.
One of my concerns of that, and that's something that's very unique to Colorado, is water rights. And there's so many complications with that you might have the hospitality zoning also, but then if you don't have the rights for water, then it's going to be very hard to get permits to build new dwelling units. How do you so just going back to sort of the beginning, can you describe the kind of properties you sell? Because there's so many different kinds, high-end, multifamily land. What's the
I can tell you
range?
how to break some of my current listings. The majority of my listings are luxury homes over $1 million that are primary residence. The second portion of my listings are multifamily properties. So I typically sell mostly up to 4 units, and because of what I told you earlier, where a primary buyer can buy up to 4 units, and it's also conventional financing. So you can get a conventional residential financing up to 4 units. So I like to stay under the residential umbrella by the 4 units. I still sell commercial over 4 units, but I don't have as many because my pocket is mostly residential. And after that, it's any type of property that generates an income. That can be a single family home in a suburb, and it generates an income because it's a long-term rental. It can be a condo. It can be a land. It can be a parking lot. It can be anything that generates an income to the client. And then I have your random deals of friends and family that I'll sell whatever they have as well. But it's mostly the relationship that determines the portfolio that I have, because I form those relationships. So if your portfolio and you have 2 single family homes and a multi and a condo, and hey, Mor, I want you to sell my multi, it's because of our relationship. It's not because, Mor is going to sell my multi and then this other broker is going to sell my primary. I mean, I can sell it all. And that keeps the relationship intact. And also it helps my clients when I know they're financing, and here I know I have to sell this investment property for them for X amount so that they can qualify for their primary for X amount.
Do you see yourself staying in residential and doing, selling that for the next 5 to 10 years, or do you want to?
I love residential real estate. I venture heavily into commercial, and more so in the last few years. And I think I'm good at it. And I provide value for my clients, but I don't enjoy it as much as I do residential, because residential has a faster pace to it. People answer emails quickly. They know there's a deadline. Commercial is just a slower pace, and everyone's taking their time. And even getting somebody on the phone in commercial can be, I kid you not, a couple of days during a transaction. It just feels like the urgency level is very low in the commercial space unless we have a quick transaction with quick deadlines. The majority are slow and long, and that just takes away some of the fun for me. And I think after being in a fast-paced business, and I'm just a fast-paced type of personality, that lowering my gear to a slower pace in commercial is good. It's just not as enjoyable.
So one thing I want to let all the listeners know, I get your newsletter, and every time I'm impressed. I think it's very hard, to continuously pump out a new newsletter, even if it's once a month. You still have to make sure it comes out well. You have to have new updates, and I always get your newsletter, and it's always interesting deals. I saw you had a duplex listed that had some pretty significant upside. One of these days we're going to do a deal together, because you have so many deals. Just start, we can start making offers. But
unfortunately, I do have a lot of deals, and I'm fortunate to my clients. Thank you to my clients that entrust their business with me.
That's kind of the thing. It's a long term. It's a client. It's a trust. It takes time to build. How long do you think an agent should expect, if they're going on the right path, should start getting I mean, for you, it was right away, it seems.
But repeat business. I think once you get repeat business is when you know, first of all, you not only did a great job the first time around, you kept good enough in touch that the top of mind strategy is there, that they want to work with you again. And I think an agent shouldn't quit before at least they push the 5-year mark. Unless they don't have any other option because they can't make it. But if they can make it and they can get by and they pass the 5-year mark and they've continued pushing the way I would push on every which way and not giving up, then they should break that.
So here's a question, just on your opinion, because I've heard different answers, I guess, to this. A lot of people go into being an agent because they're attracted to the commission and they think they could do it part-time. Is that true? Can you do it part-time?
I mean, I bet some agents can, but I don't allow part-time agents on my team, is because the reason is when you're doing it part-time, first of all, your head is not into it all the time. You have another business and that's where your mindset is. And second of all, you're not really able to push like you would on your business and succeed if you're not deciding to go all in. You know, if you're committed, then you need to be committed. And being successful with a part-time job is good in real estate, which requires so much from the agent to succeed. You're just making it so much harder for you to succeed. So yes, you're getting the income that you need to get by, but you're not building your business. You're just using real estate as a crutch for your income.
Right.
It's not a career at that point, it's a job.
I never thought of it as a good part-time thing because you do have to be breathing it. But speaking of, putting so much time and effort into it, what's your work-life balance? Because you have 3 kids, you travel a lot, now you have different investments, portfolio, and how do you balance everything? What's your structure?
Well, first of all, my children are always first, and I'm never going to put my business before my children. I'm fortunate that the real estate industry is very, very good to mothers because I don't have to ask anyone if I can take the day off because my children are sick at home. I don't have to request permission to take a vacation. So being an independent, there's pluses and minuses. The minuses is that you're right, I have to work to get my own money. But the pluses is that I can be there for my kids. So I feel as though being a realtor, I have a better ability for a work-life balance than a mother that goes 9 to 5 to an office and can't see her kids. I pick up my kids from school. I spend a lot of time with them. So I'm fortunate for the real estate industry to give me that opportunity as a parent. But in terms of the day-to-day life, it's hectic.
Yeah.
My family's here from out of town. They're like, Mor, you know what we've noticed? That you never stop working. Like, people go home at the end of the day and they stop working. And I think I could do better with that. Not that I'm saying the real estate industry is like this. I should be better with this, but I'm always working. Even at home, I'm getting calls about deals. And yes, I know how to put my phone aside, have dinner with my family. Yes, I know how to not take my phone to karate class and watch my son do karate wholly, but I'm still working everywhere I go. On vacation, that you say I'm on vacation, I'm not really on vacation. I mean, I am, but I'm also at the pool negotiating a deal. So I take my business with me, and that's good and bad. But as a parent, I think it's good.
Yeah. Well, okay, so if you weren't in real estate and you had to pick another career path, what do you think you would have done?
Well, I was a professional poker player, and I can tell you that was my favorite job. I was also a preschool teacher, and that's also
really?
great. That's also a great job. But I've been
World Series, though, right?
I mean, I play for a living. World Series would be whatever you consider it. I still had to go every day and make money for a living in the poker world, but it was just so much fun. It was just easier to do it back when you don't have a lot of responsibilities. When you're in your early 20s and you don't have children, you just have to pay your rent or whatever, then gambling, I usually don't like calling it gambling, but just to make it easy, I mean, for a living is kind of scary. But also easier then. Now it's scary when I'm an adult and I have responsibilities. But so I wouldn't go back to being a professional poker player, but I did have the best time ever. And I probably will end up retiring and being on the poker circuit, going from tournament to tournament. You're going to see me in the tournaments.
You're so happy. I see a smile on your face.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I can do it for hours. So I think that will be my retirement plan. I'm just going to play poker again.
Was there ever any time in your career where you were just like a little bit scared or vulnerable and you felt like you didn't know what to do, and how did you find your way out of it? I don't know if
there's always those times. Here's the thing also with real estate, every deal is completely different and you learn on the job, right? You can be doing it for 12 years, 20 years, you get a transaction you've never had before, and it's a puzzle piece, and now you have to make it work, and there you're learning something new. But I did have a specific transaction where there was a lot, and there was permits that were grandfathered in from years ago, and I had to go every week to the county for the business and development, the planning and development department, and I had to meet with them for this deal every week, and I think I didn't end up selling that deal. It ended up going into auction.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
However, I learned so much from those 8 months of going to the county that years later, I am still implementing all the knowledge I've learned from those months of me working on that deal.
Wow.
So to my advice to brokers, like, why did I do this deal? And oh wait, I'm gonna give you a cherry on top of this story, is that years later I got interviewed by a developer, and he asked some questions from another developer that was in the room with him outside of the interview to hire me. And I responded to his questions because of all the knowledge that I've learned from that deal, that I said, oh, you shouldn't do that. You need to go here and here and here and tell them this and that. And they're like, Mor, how do you know all of this? Oh, I've learned a lot about this. And then I got a big deal from that developer. Now, I don't know for a fact if I got the deal because I knew so much, but I can tell you it definitely helped. So sometimes when the deal didn't go through and you think that was a waste of time, that was a waste of money, you might find that in the future, that deal ended up helping you in ways you didn't know at that time.
That's what I mean. Personally, I love struggles because of that, because they create so much character that, you could choose to grow or you could choose to not grow. And I think that's incredible. I mean, we were talking about that. I've been going through a little bit of that myself recently, and it's been one of the best things as a person that I've ever been through. But and I'm very thankful for that. So what's some of the hardest lessons that I feel like you've learned in real estate?
I guess the hardest lesson to learn is that, don't have any expectations. I think people get hurt, especially brokers. They get hurt real quick. If somebody that they know and they were sure they were going to list their home with them didn't sell, and now it becomes this like I'm so offended. Like, I don't have that at all. If you don't sell your home with me, we're still friends. I think you should sell your home with me because I'll do a really great job for you. But business and friends are friends. You have to keep that separate. And I think that is something that realtors should know from the get-go. Like, don't stop talking to your friend from high school because she didn't sell your house with you. Stop taking things so personally, right? So I think that's number one. And in the beginning in real estate, everyone takes things real personal. The second thing I've learned is that you can be the big shot one day, and you could be the head honcho, you could be the top of the pot, the ball. But as long as you're in the game, you're in the game.
Poker terms.
As long as you're in the game, you're still in it. So like, don't give up. And I've just seen a lot of people give up along the way because struggles are real. And I'm here to say there's always a light at the end.
Do you have any influencers that you like?
Well, my agents are influencers themselves. So I think that's a great way to build, I guess, your business. In today's world, I think not being some sort, it doesn't have to be a lifestyle influencer. I mean, I consider myself a little bit of a lifestyle influencer because I have that blog. But it could be anything. As long as you have an audience. What is an influencer? It's someone that has an audience. And the reason that they're considered an influencer is because they influence a large number of people. So if you can build an audience, and it doesn't have to be shallow influencer. It can just be an influencer that influences regarding business decisions. An influencer that, you're an influencer, in my opinion. Am I right?
I don't know.
I think you're an influencer. You influence people, and you have
challenge people for sure.
Yeah, so I think having that is a benefit, and I think everyone should consider how they can be an influencer in their field.
How do you feel about this is kind of I know the answer, but I'm curious what you think. With the MLS, you have your own insight. Back in the day, brokers had their own insight on everything. With Redfin, with Zillow, with sort of buyers trying to cut the middleman out, how do you feel brokers still having there's still a need for brokers? What's that need, and why should people call you rather than look up for their own properties and, do all the work themselves?
Well, first of all, I think that what the person thinks that they know based on Zillow or Redfin is not the actual transaction. You might know the year of the house and when it was built, but do you know all the intricacies of what the title commitment is going to do if you leave it that way without removing a section from it? Do you know, you'd have a lot of situations in a transaction that you could potentially trigger yourself to lose a lot of money, or potentially have a situation that the deal can be a bust because of just trying to save a little bit.
Right.
I always, people say, oh, why should I hire a realtor? Well, let me ask you a question. If you're in jail and they're going to send you to prison, are you on a self-defense? Are you going to represent yourself, or are you just going to hire an attorney? So real estate is a big amount. It's a large sum of money. It's most of the people's entire money that they have in their lives is their primary residence sits in it. Why would you risk everything that you have potentially with a lawsuit that could happen? Because people don't realize that when the deal ends, the liability doesn't end. Liability can go up to 7 years past the transaction. So Mr. Seller can decide to not hire a realtor, not know that he needs to fill out the seller's property disclosure in full, decide that he's just going to save money, sell his house for $1 million, not notify whatever on the seller's property disclosure, only to get sued, try to represent himself, and then end up losing all of his equity. And all of that to what? To save a couple of percentage, to have a professional that does it, not just because we have access to the MLS, because we are involved in education on the field. We have to have specific number of hours on our license of education to continue learning to grow and understand the rules, the regulations, and all the potential pitfalls. And that's why this is my job, and Mr. Seller or Mr. Buyer, it's not their job. It's just their property.
I think it's that, I mean, the advice that you give, even when we're shooting the shit talking, the advice that you give, the information that is so valuable that you're not going to find that on Redfin or other websites where you're searching for yourself. You're also not going to have the network that you have. If somebody needs a special inspector, maybe there's asbestos, maybe there's mold. These are things that don't always come up. People don't really even do inspections for those two things a lot of the time, and they could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to remediate if you don't catch it on time, or during the inspection. It should lower your price if you're
100%. And I also have a lot of people that I work with that can give you good pricing for renovation and for basically everything. Anything, realtors are become like a directory for anything to do with real estate. I would be your address.
So I've seen that you've mentored a lot of people. Who mentored you, and what did they give you?
Wow, that's a big question. Well, I'm gonna sound like, those I guess TV shows, but my biggest mentor was my grandmother, who passed away a few years ago. And she wasn't a mentor for real estate. She was a mentor for my life. She taught me how to be a good person. And that's why this whole conversation, when you keep asking me, what makes a good broker? It's who they are as a person first. So I'm definitely gonna give my grandmother chops for being my biggest mentor. In terms of real estate, I learn from everyone. I am not just the broker that comes and talks and speaks to others. I like to learn too. I learn from you, from everyone I go to. I go to all these conferences around the world so that I can also not just teach, but also learn. And I take advice from everybody that I meet, and I implement it in my business. So I would say my mentors have been all the people I've heard over the last 12 years that have given me advice. And there is one particular person, and this is a woman I met at a conference, and she told me just one sentence, and I think I just took it with me because it really helped my business. I said to her, I congratulated her for her success in real estate and being a broker, and she is this big hotshot. She closed a lot of deals, and she's older, and she goes to me, oh, Mor, do not compliment me on how many transactions I've done. Compliment me that I've saved money, and over the years I've bought investment properties with my commissions, and now I own over 100 properties, and that's how I have passive income in my retirement. You should congratulate me for that, not for my transactions. And I took that with me, and I guess that's when I started pushing on buying more investment properties for myself, because if after she's been awarded every single award for being a lifetime achievement broker, and if her success is the properties that she's purchased, not the one that she sold for herself, then that's, for me, something that I'm taking with me.
That's long-term thinking. I think, originally this podcast was called The Long-Term Real Estate Investor because it was the idea was to show people that investing for long-term is very different than immediate returns.
That's
I think
right.
the culture was really about instant gratification. And a lot of real estate people that are in it for the long run look at things differently than the instant gratification of a high return year one or year within the first 5 years type of thing. So no, it's very interesting. What habits have you created in your life? What are 3 key daily habits for you that you really have to do every day to set yourself up for success?
I definitely have to use my calendar. I can no longer just have meetings randomly. I have now become bound to my calendar, and I think that just happens. The more business that you get, you have to live by the calendar. But really, it's also about giving gratitude. So I always make sure, and I learned that from the Ninja. There's a Ninja program on being a realtor, and anyone who doesn't know that, I highly recommend looking into it. I communicate. So I have to either reach out to my clients, 3 people a day. I pick up the phone and talk to them that I haven't spoken to for a couple of years. 4 people a week, I'm going to write them a letter. I'm going to send them something. I'm going to give them a Starbucks gift card for something I saw that they just on Facebook or Instagram, they got married, they had a baby. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Maybe more than a Starbucks for that. But you know what I mean. Yeah. I try to give them personal attention, and I always keep in flow and connection with my clients.
I love everything ninja, so that's why you saw me smiling. I used to say I was a ninja, but I'm like the worst at tiptoeing. I crash into everything. But that's interesting. I've heard you say something about that. There's a book.
There is a book.
Ninja something.
Yeah. It's by Larry Kendall. He's very.
I saw it. I saw it yesterday. I wrote it down actually in my notes to buy it. I'm trying to read a bunch of books right now. So what's a piece of advice you would give to somebody starting out in real estate? And that's.
Build a database. And when I mean build your database, I don't mean having people just on your contacts on your phone, because I do have it there. I told you it's important. But you also have to have it either in a CRM, which is a client relationship management tool, or I don't care if it's in Excel, I don't care where it's on your Word document, if it's in your notebook, but you need to have not only this person's phone number and their email address, you need to know where they live. You need to have in there what the name of their partner is, if you know it, what their name of their children, of their dog. You need to have as much information about when was the last time they told you that they're thinking about selling. Did they tell you, oh, we're not ready yet, we're probably going to we want to list towards the spring. And you're talking to them in November. A lot of brokers don't remember to call throughout that time to get to the time where the spring is coming over. So I think having a good database and looking at your database often. If I don't have a deal or I'm worried about business, I'll open my database and I'll just look at all the people that I know, and I'll find some person. I'm I know who I can call. I haven't spoken to Eduardo for a while, and I'm just going to give him a call. And then I'll sometimes even ask the people, hey, like I told you, I'm completely honest. And if it's a slow market, I'll tell my clients, hey buddy, it's been kind of slow. Do you have anyone that might want to buy or sell? Right. Let me tell you, your friends want to help you. They just need to know. You need to be able to tell them, hey, I need some help here. Send me a deal. I so appreciate it. I'll take such good care of your friends. Yeah. And sometimes it's all people need to hear. And they will want to help you. But people are afraid to ask for help.
I mean, that's part of your assertive nature. I'm sure that's led to a lot of success. Well, that's the wrap-up question. So,
can I promote myself for 30 seconds?
Yeah, of course, definitely.
Well, I would love to help you and all of your family members and everybody you know in any type of real estate deal. And my website is Team Denver Homes, but you can find me as Mor Zucker on every social media platform. And please reach out to me.
That's a wrap. Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Mor. I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you.